Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 7th meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Please take note of all the exits around the room in case of an emergency or mishap. And now please join us as we salute the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're starting at time, but we still should be having two more potential planning board members join us once we begin. The first item on the agenda is a new public hearing for Hyde Park Town Center. This is the north building. For most of us, this will be known as the Feeds Plus building. The applicants are asking for a request of an extension of the deadline in which to complete substantial construction. The letter they circulated more or less said that the reason why is because they've been going through all the other buildings that need to have a tighter deadline. Anybody have any questions here?
No.
May I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Would anyone from the public like to speak about this application? This is a renovation to the exterior of the Feeds Plus building. There being none, may I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we have a resolution prepared, and this is being introduced by Vice Chair Oliver.
Resolution to extend the time to complete substantial construction of a site plan for Hyde Park Town Center North, Buildings 3, 4, and 5, resolution number 16-15K. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby extends the time to complete substantial construction of the project as shown on amended site plan by 2 years to and including August 24th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Other Vice Chair, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Waters, for the record, has joined us. Thank you, Rob. And thank you both.
I apologize.
No. The next item is a continued public hearing for Small O'Malley. This is a subdivision with 5 lots. Making a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Mr. Kohler, you're back. Thank you. We got
Aye.
your revised submission.
It's nice to see everybody live again.
Yes.
Same here, although I've seen you in the field a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I take it you're going to do an overview of what the changes are in the submissions?
Yeah, I think that would be a wise thing to do at this point. And generally, since we last spoke, the planning board had a site visit, and then I had a follow-up site walk with the chairman. And we ended up making some of the changes that we talked about on that, specific to the driveways. That was probably one of the biggest things that we found. Mm-hmm. So in this general area, we moved the driveway over a bit. It was better configured in this old farm path, actually, that avoided some of the trees that you saw.
Right.
So in addition to that, you had noticed that there were some wetlands out there. And since that point, we've had those extra wetlands delineated. So there's these 2 pockets to the rear. And then there was this pocket over here, which is kind of behind the existing house. Further, on the opposite side of the road, as part of a DEC recommendation, there is a DEC wetland on the other side. And that was delineated by DEC staff and picked up by the surveyor as well. So now the plan shows that the 100-foot buffer for the DEC is right in this area. I don't know if I can stop those text pop-ups, but we're not disturbing anything within that 100-foot there. So while our driveway is relatively close to this wetland, it is an existing path, so we felt pretty good about being able to do that. And we've worked with the health department and with the Department of Public Works as well. So some of you, probably unfortunately for you, were on the emails because they were, there's a multitude of them.
That would be me. That would be me.
Yes.
And we don't mind.
Yeah. So basically, the driveway, we had some discussions with them. They actually started saying that they wanted a much larger driveway section. And then we met with some of their personnel out in the field, and it was determined that the smaller section did make more sense. And we're happy about that because
Yes.
we didn't want it to look like a major commercial entrance here. This is a nice rural area, and it really didn't make any sense to have that 120-foot wide entrance that they wanted. So we've worked with them. We've we verified the site distance with them. And one of the things that we also did was, this exhibit shows a little bit of it. There's a stone wall that runs along through this area here. So where we're going through that stone wall, we're actually looking to relocate that stone wall about 2 feet beyond, on the back side of that sight lines there. So the DPW has accepted the sight lines that we're showing here. We're proposing these easements. We're still working with them on that. It's a process with them. And we've also been working with the health department. So all of these septic systems we have, we've really reduced the number of comments that the health department has on them at this point. So one thing that's a little bit different, even since we submitted very recently, is that there's an existing well here. So this is the existing well here that serves the house. This well was observed out, I believe the planning board saw this as well, right?
Yep.
So this well, it's a drilled well, which was kind of surprising to me. And what we've done since this plan is we've actually changed this lot line slightly. So now there's going to be a lot line that comes down through here. And this well is a little more centrally located on the property. And based on the number of lots, we have to do a well quality and quantity test for the health department's purposes for the approval. So we've actually proposed to use this well, and so far they've been very receptive to that. What we would do is we would actually use this well for Lot 2 house now. So we would be bringing a well supply line that would run up. We'd run it along the bottom side of the driveway and then into the house. So it'll be nice to have an actual well that was tested that will still remain and be in use, which is a nice indicator for the other 3 lots, because frankly, this well has been serving that house for quite some time now. So, we finally, I think I would just mention that that Mike Nowicki has been retained by the applicant to do the Blandings turtle habitat assessment. That we hope, and I spoke with him a little bit today. We hope I'll have that done by the end of next week. So we would end up coming back with that. And I guess I should actually note one more thing. With the last submittal, we also did the Phase 1A and Phase 1B archaeological sensitivity analysis and found that there were no potential issues associated with that. So we're making our way through. Basically, at this point, it's really a comfort level for you all if you feel like we've made enough progress to get to that point where we can close the public hearing, or do we want to continue public hearing? I think we're getting very close to being to that point where we can.
We can't close the public hearing yet because you're still giving us new materials. So
Okay.
anything that, like the Blandings Turtle Report, any of those, the public has to be able to see them and comment on them. So
Okay.
that's why we have to hold the public
Fair.
hearing open.
Yep.
Once you stop giving us new material and we're settled down on everything, which, by the way, I think that relocating that lot line so the well now is on the Lot 2 property
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
having been out there to look at it. But once you do that, then we can consider closing and giving a conditional approval. We hate giving too many conditions because lately, because of the agency slowdown, we've had several projects that you can only have a year in which to meet your conditions. We can't
Right.
extend it any further than that, and people have not been meeting the conditions in a year.
Yeah.
It's primarily Department of Health, but you're working through that right now.
Yeah, the
So,
health department's actually been very responsive on this one. I think the slowest,
DCDPW.
that was the tougher one, but I think we've made
I
a lot
saw.
of
You were very
progress with them.
patient.
So,
And I'm shocked that the owners of this site are being as patient as they are too, because it could go weeks where they would then get back to you. No, we still think this is a better idea. It's like, you've explained why.
what they do is they verbally abuse me tremendously, but then have a nice facade when.
For the planning board.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's
As it should be.
We've been trying to explain the process as much as we can with them, and there have been some surprises along the way for them. So unfortunately, I feel for them, but we're doing our best to get through them. And
So let me start to
I
the
think we
right.
will.
Mr. Oliver, comments or questions?
I have no comments. I do also agree with that well, changing the lot line. I think that's going to be helpful. But other than that, I don't have any. Any new comments?
Ms. Dexter?
I just wanted to ask, so that was an extra well that was dug and was on the property of the existing house?
Yes, I'm not sure the purpose of why they did that, but
Is it a working well?
there's no pump in it now, so what we'll have to do is we'll have to bring some temporary electric to it,
Yeah,
drop a
okay.
well pump down there, and then we'll do our quality or our
And
quantity
you'll
test.
find out if it's actually a working well at
Yeah,
that point,
so
right?
we'll do the quantity test, and then we'll pull samples at the end of the quantity test, and then we'll send them to the lab and
Okay,
run through the full Part 5 analysis.
yeah, it's kind of just amazing. No, but in general, I'm glad you've made it a much better project, and have really worked with the existing features, and so
And thank you.
glad to see it's moving along. And I'm also glad that they noted that you didn't have to put that huge entrance. And I believe you said, but right next door is another 5-house lot, and they're like, oh, okay, that seems to work.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where once they actually went out to the site
Right,
and looked at it and saw everything along the way, I think
yeah, I was happy to see that.
common sense kind of fell into
Yay.
place.
Well, the entrance they were proposing was for a neighborhood of 20 houses, not for additional lots. Come on.
Yeah, it's really it's entrance that's really more suited for a new town road
Mhm.
or a
Right,
commercial
right.
entrance.
Yes.
So
I think that's all I had. Oh, no, actually, I had a question about the driveway and wondering if it needed to be paved.
I think Pete had raised that
He does.
Yeah.
in his memo. So
And I think
He
it's the
doesn't
I
seem
think it's
to-
the fire department that I would be looking to find out how they feel.
yeah, the fire department did give us a memo earlier. They never said anything about the paving. They did talk about turnarounds or the emergency turnoffs, which we've added on there
Right.
since to accommodate that. But I think we'll work with Pete on that to see. I know he was saying that you might be concerned whether, the timing of it. When do you put the final top asphalt course based on, the damage that might get produced by bringing in the construction
Oh,
vehicles
right,
for
oh,
the
yes,
other
there's always
houses.
the
So
interim, yes.
yeah, so I think he was a little concerned with that, and he was mentioning about maybe like a kind of like a cold mix asphalt product that's somewhat like a tar and chip, if you will.
Yep.
That
Okay.
seems to be a nice product for like a shared driveway like this. So we'll consider that, and we'll show that once we determine what that's going to be. We'll work with Pete directly if we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Ms. Wasser?
No, I don't have any comments, thanks.
Mr. Waters?
The same, but they've all been addressed, so.
Okay. The one thing I would, well, actually, I'm sorry, do you?
My only comment is that it's nice to see the progress. It's nice working with you as always. Thank you for being
Thank
so
you.
attentive to our requests, especially relocating the driveway. I think the people who ultimately build that house or buy it will be much happier having some trees there instead of just naked driveway. And again, I'm just on the record as I don't think there's going to be a lot of Blanding's turtles there because the wet area is so dark with the canopy. There's no light penetration, and they need a little bit of that. Also,
And-
to conclude, that Pete does have a new memo out for you. He apologized, of course, because we thought they're having some issues since the merger with their servers and stuff, so he thought you already had it, but you'll have a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And did Bonnie think that she would have a memo for me at some point? Or
Bonnie is going to work on a memo, but she wanted to make sure that, she wanted us to wanted me to speak to her after tonight to see if there were any concerns in the planning board that
Okay.
she wanted to add in there.
Great.
Which you hear there aren't.
Perfect. So I tend to agree with you, the Blandings. We did the soil test pits for the septics, and they were good, but they weren't a typical habitat where nesting would normally
Right.
occur. They like to really have the Hoosic gravelly
Yes,
loams.
they want to be loam.
Yes.
light.
And this was more of a silty loam. It was deep, but it was not easily diggable. They like to easily dig through, lay their eggs, and then cover them back up. So I don't think it's going to be habitat either, but we'll run through
We'll
the
see.
process.
DEC
because-
required it, so
Yeah,
we'll see.
absolutely. I did have a couple of questions. I had mentioned in my my submittal letter. There's, the conservation easement is back through here. That's that dashed line here. So we were talking about a demarcation for that. And I thought that I would want to hear what the planning board would prefer to see, because there was talk about boulders. I thought moving boulders back there might be counterintuitive to the fact that we might have to actually, remove vegetation and things to get the boulders to it. So is there?
This is a Ms. Moss kind of question, because she's the one who goes out and takes a look to make sure that it's all been done. Generally speaking, if you can get some boulders to line, she's fine with that. Otherwise, if you want to do something that it's a little bit more expensive, but then it's permanent, is you can put in
The concrete monuments?
yes,
or
monuments, thank you.
Iron rods, yeah, that's kind of what I mentioned in there. I didn't know if the board had a preference.
It's really Tad's preference, and Tad loves monuments. Anything that can be used, that can be found years later.
Yeah.
Boulders can be moved, that's really the issue. Although I don't think if you have big boulders, someone's going to go out there and reconstruct Stonehenge to try to destroy your border. So we generally try to adhere to applicants' requests too, to see about cost.
Yeah, unfortunately, they do cost more money to put in, but.
But I mean, big boulders.
It could be a mixture of monuments and maybe some iron rods or something to that
Yeah.
effect.
Big boulders can pretty much tell people, I'm not supposed to go mow
Yeah.
past that area.
And you're trying to demarcate it and in a persistent way so that it doesn't disappear in 10 years. And that's why we like boulders, because they're natural and can actually become features of the landscape and.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that there probably won't be much clearing back there. I think
It
think
does drop off. I mean, it's.
once you get to this, like for example, this septic system, it does, like you're saying, it drops off in the back. You see the topo gets a little bit more steep through there. I'm thinking that they're probably going to just clear right on that in that area over here and kind of be liking the fact that there's a nice wooded.
I mean, the
area
audience won't know
behind.
this,
Same with this lot, really.
but having most of us having walked this site, and me a couple of times, the area where the houses are proposed are pretty much already cleared.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
This isn't like
Yeah.
you're taking a lot of new tree or old trees down for that.
Right.
The older growth trees are all in the rear. They're staying in the conservation easement. So I don't see that as a problem. That's why when we were first looking at limits of construction, we thought they were tight. Then we went out, we're like, oh, there's already a lot of stuff removed. So.
Yeah, and so that was the other thing I wanted to just bring up was we did have some discussions about the limit of disturbance, and what we did was we showed a limit of disturbance that would extend out at least 50 feet beyond the house. So basically, you'll see almost a circular area for the limit of disturbance because that's a 50-foot radius from the house, and that is more about soil disturbance for the purposes of the SWIP. Those are the areas where the construction vehicles may go. It may compact the soil. You may want to decompact that soil before you're finished with everything, before you establish your final lawn. And I think that that's a pretty fair assessment of where there will be disturbance. I don't see people really doing a lot of soil disturbance that's going to be, damaging the topo otherwise. I think a lot of people are going to look at this and kind of go with the natural topo here.
So what you're talking about is sometimes we have the same discussion. Disturbance to some people, engineers, means soil disturbance, you can cut down the tree, but you can't take the roots out. For us, when we look at limits of construction disturbance, we're talking really about where they'll just remove trees, everything. That's why Pete's comment is in there about how it may be too small for a lawn area, because you're looking at disturbed areas one, where soil will
Right.
be disturbed, and he's thinking a bigger area where people would want to remove any additional trees, but have a lawn, stuff like that. That can be
Right,
resolved.
so
That's
maybe a limit of
resolved now.
clearing versus a limit of
Oh, that's a good
disturbance.
term, yeah.
That's we've done that in the past. But what's gonna happen is these lots will get sold and somebody's gonna come up with something other than the rectangle I'm showing.
We're
And-
aware of that,
and
don't
they
worry.
may
As long as they
wanna-
don't go back into the conservation easement, that's okay.
Right, so there's this fine line of being precise with a subdivision plan versus the reality of what ends up getting built.
Believe me, we know, and the housing locations may shift, et cetera. That's all, I think, part of what our code says that you're allowed to do. And for us, I mean, again, you're looking at something that the board, I don't want to say we're being lenient, but the concern about removal of trees isn't as strong because they're already gone.
Yeah,
What we were
Right.
talking about while we were out there was how to preserve the biggest trees left, because people like screening
Sure.
from the road, et cetera. And I think you've done most of that. That's particularly with lot, I think it's 1, or lot 5 would be, sorry. At any
Yeah,
rate,
this is lot 5 here.
yeah,
Okay.
that's it. So lot 5 now has the screening of the trees between it and the, yeah.
Right.
So no, it's, you can show limits of clearing rather than limits of disturbance because it's limits of clearing that we're interested in.
Yeah.
Right.
So how much time do they need before we reschedule?
Yeah, when would you want this to adjourn this to?
Assuming that he was accurate when he said he would give me the report by the end of next week, that would mean I would like to try to address some more of these, and if Bonnie has anything. So,
Let's put you on
The-
for October 5th.
yeah, I think that would make sense. Is it 2 weeks prior?
Once you're in the pipeline, when you're
Yeah.
this far along, if it's new material, the first time we see something, we need the full 2 weeks.
And he
So do
just
our
did his
consultant.
major resubmission.
Yes, so, which I've already reviewed, so, yes?
Well, we do, I mean, he has to submit for final, so we need the final plat, if it's gonna be the last submittal. And you're gonna need it in
Oh, I'm
enough
not sure he's
time.
going to submit. I think he was just going to submit the
The habitat
study, the
assessment?
habitat assessment study for us to
It
discuss.
depends if
Anything
there's,
else?
if there's things we can take care of here and
Okay.
make the list smaller, we may
Mm.
do that, so.
Then that'd be fine as well, but not all of us may have had a chance to review everything if you get it in like 2 days beforehand.
Right,
because,
right.
Right.
As I said, you're in the pipeline, so we've been working with this and we're familiar with it, but we still need some time, particularly the consultants, because they
Yeah.
don't just
Yep.
work for Hyde Park, they have all sorts of other clients, as you know.
Yeah, and I spoke to a pump company today. Actually, I ended up finally getting in touch with them. I've been trying to get in touch with them for a little over 2 weeks about getting that well tested, and he actually said, frankly, I'm just too busy.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that are having water issues right
A
now.
lot of
So,
wells have run dry.
so he's getting pulled in a lot of directions right now.
Yes.
So
want us to
I'm
push
gonna
this
have
out
to
to
try
the
to get somebody
19th?
else in there.
Sounds like the night.
Do you want to push this to the 19th?
I
Up
don't
to
think
you.
I don't think I'm going to have a health department approval in my hand
By then
regardless at
anyway.
that point. But as long as I feel like I'm getting to that point where I'm going to have very few comments from the health department, I'd be happy to say, within the first 6 months, hopefully, if I need 2 90-day extensions after that, I'd be surprised. But
But you're further along with the health department than what some are, that's why. So
Yeah.
let's make it a motion to adjourn this to October 5th.
So moved.
that sounds good.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll have this for discussion, and if anything, it's a public hearing, so we'll have to open it. But if you don't need to come or something, just let us know. We'll open and adjourn another date.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you very
It's
much.
good to see you.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
time. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Poiser ground-mounted photovoltaic panels. We have a recommendation. This is located at Helen Hollow Road. It looks like the applicants are here tonight. Come on up. So in the interim, so this is near, I believe it was the Quicks that we had before for solar, ground-mounted solar panels off Helen Hollow. There was a dam, a catchment,
Oh,
sort of a
right.
pond, if you remember this. This is going to be very near. They propose more or less the same landscaping that's being used at the other location. And they got their variance for the incursion into the stream corridor from the ZBA, so they're just looking to us for site plan approval. Let me turn it over to you guys. Mr. Poiser,
Mr. Poiser, it's my wife Renee.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Oh.
you.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Now, we're just looking at putting two ground rack solar system. So it's going to be a total of 20 kilowatts.
And we've seen the plans, we've seen
Okay.
everything ourselves up here, so
Okay.
I don't think there's any questions up here, really. We're just here tonight to set a public hearing because that's required.
Okay.
And Ms. Moss, our zoning administrator, likes to have public hearings on these because sometimes people are like, I want screening right there, I don't want it over here.
Okay.
That sort of, and we're required to have screening under the law, so that's really it. But this should be fairly easy. Do you have any questions?
No.
We want to make this easy for you,
Okay.
okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Making a motion to set the public hearing for September 21st.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's it. Sorry, made you sit here all that time.
Oh, no,
Oh, that's it? Okay.
They're happy to
great.
go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Enjoy your evening.
The next item on the agenda is Salt Point Solar Amendment. This is for the application that was approved and has been built and located at 525 Salt Point Turnpike. This is Mr. Baxter's property. One of the reasons why this has taken so long, and Cynthia can attest, is the companies that first get in here sell things quickly to others, and then others sell their approvals to others. So chasing the chain of command back was actually hard to figure out who got the escrow, et cetera. So, but we finally got it solved. This is for an approval to locate the shed container. The approval, it's really forgiveness. It's already there. Ms. Moss discovered it. It was white. It's been painted green. If you go by, you can take a look at it.
It's
And
proposed to be painted green, right?
it's already painted
Oh,
green.
they did?
Yeah, they did it, yeah.
Okay.
We saw. So.
Okay.
At any rate,
I'm confused because when I read
Yes,
TADS, it
right.
said proposed.
so essentially, this also must be referred to county planning because Salt Point Turnpike is a county and state road. So the important part is that we set the public hearing and also make a motion to refer it over to county planning. I don't think they'll be interested. In addition, I do want to just give the applicants a little bit of a shout out. They thought that because it's a storage container that could be moved, that it didn't need site plan 'cause it's not permanent, but it's planned to be there permanently for storage. So that's why it had to go, has
Oh,
to
that's
go on.
good, yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, good for them.
Here you go, Ann. Green.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I saw those pictures. I had just read TADS stuff in the last couple days, and
Well,
it
that
said
was-
proposed.
There's the white.
Yep.
So may I
Cool.
first get a motion to refer the site plan amendment for this to Dutchess County Planning per 239M?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Then may I get a motion to waive the public hearing for the Salt Point site plan amendment because it was recommended as such by the zoning administrator to her. We never had anybody comment about this except for the Peach Park Hill people, and that was mitigated their concerns. We've never had anybody discuss this since, so she doesn't think it's necessary in this case to have that.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item is the access supports for living. These are two signs. One is freestanding and one is a tenant panel. And,
It's the tenant panel on the freestanding
oh,
sign.
right, what am I saying? Sorry. There are two other ones for another application. My apologies. So anybody have any questions for Ms. Grace here tonight about the sign?
No.
It's code compliant. Thank you. Look.
Yep.
Way. No, remember, mostly signs come to us after they receive variances because most people want bigger or whatever. This was code compliant to begin with, so. Anybody have any questions?
No.
And this was Ann's resolution introduced.
Yes, resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit. Resolution number 2021-34, whereas, be it resolved, the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the tenant panel sign permit for access supports for living submitted by Grace Rusescus on July 26, 2022.
Oh, sorry, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
My apologies.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Seckles. I'm sorry you had to sit here through all the evening. You don't
I got
mind.
to read a book.
I was gonna say, she was reading, she was catching up.
Now I'm taking myself to dinner, so thank you
There
very
you
much,
go.
everyone.
Enjoy yourself. Have a glass of wine on the planning board tonight.
No, you know, I will toast you.
Thank you.
There we go.
The next item on the agenda are Nuvance Health Medical Offices. These are new panels and signs going in at 4068 Albany Post Road near the Roosevelt Movie Theater. This is one where we have two, one for the freestanding and one for the replacement wall sign.
Right.
Anybody have any questions on these?
Yep,
Ms. Wasser.
yep. Okay, resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A4D. New Vance Health replacement wall sign, September 7th. Resolution 2022-39. Whereas, be it resolved, the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the wall sign permit for New Vance Health submitted by Amber Smith on July 18th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. Rob, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. And Mr. Waters, the next resolution is yours.
The next resolution is mine.
Your tag team.
Resolution, recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3, New Vance Health, the single tenant panel. Resolution 2022-39A. Whereas, be it resolved, the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the tenant panel sign permit for New Vance Health submitted by Amber Smith on July 18th, 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Marcos and Chalk. This is for an approval, or actually for site plan waiver to approve an in-ground pool. This is the interesting house that you can see from Bard Rock across the way that will be in before us for a rather extensive renovation. They've been meeting with Tad and I off and on shortly. This is an area where there are no trees. It is not in the directly in the floodplain, and it's probably the only place you could actually put a pool there. Ms. Moss has recommended that we waive site plan review. This is visible from the river. The whole house is visible from the river. The whole place is on the river. It's got 2 boat loading docks as well. So anybody have any questions on this one?
No, I wanted to thank you for clarifying, because when I was trying to look at the, the available imagery from.
It's hard.
It looked like there was all trees there.
Yes, it wasn't until I went over and took an actual physical look, I was like, oh, that's where this is. 'Cause
Okay.
It's hard.
Yes, it was, so I thank you, and as always, appreciate the update.
Extra touch.
All right.
And Mr. Guercio is not here tonight, so who would like to,
No, I believe it's
Why
mine.
you read it?
is
It's
it?
mine.
Yes, it is yours, sorry.
Which
And I
is-
was going to take,
And
What?
he'll take the
John's.
next one.
Good.
All right, so,
Oh,
Nadja Marcos and Adrian Chalk, site plan waiver, Town Code Section 108-9.4C2, Resolution number 2022-40, whereas a request for site plan waiver has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Nadja Marcos and Adrian Chalk for construction of a 36 by 12 in-ground lap pool on the property associated with a single-family home requiring building permit, and whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the proposed changes as described in the building permit received by the Building Department May 31st, 2022, and per request of the Planning Board dated August 26th, 2022.
second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And Mr. Oliver, you do have the next one now. Thank you for volunteering and sticking up. This is for Brian Amkraut. This is for site plan waiver for a generator located at 16 Cove Road. This is also in a scenic area of statewide significance, but it is not visible from the river or the immediate historic sites. Anybody have any questions?
no.
Take it away, Chris.
16 Cove Road, Rhinebeck, New York, site plan waiver, resolution number 2022-43, whereas a request for a site plan waiver has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Brian Amkraut for installation of standby generator on the property associated with a single-family home requiring a building permit. And whereas, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the proposed addition as described in the building permit received by the Building Department August 9, 2022, and per the request to the Planning Board dated August 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the town board referral, comments of our comments on local law C. I have so far heard very nice statements from several planning board members. I appreciate that. Anybody have any questions about the letter, or?
No, I guess my only comment is, you had mentioned like the intense research that went into actually
The EAF.
drafting this local law.
Yep.
And you were talking about that through some of our other applications, which really made this, seem like a no-brainer. That, that the work had been done, and it made sense.
Thank you. It has, I
And
promise.
that you outlined it very nicely in
Yeah.
here,
Well,
in your letter.
it's Bonnie, this was the town board hiring Bonnie to do the consulting work on it. It helped immensely, because when Bonnie and I discussed the scope of how to do this, I remember when, years ago, we passed a wetlands ordinance, and we didn't look at all the properties that had wetlands,
Right.
which we probably should have, because now that I've worked this through with Bonnie, she said, let's go through and look at every parcel that could be affected in these districts that's over 4 acres, and then she analyzed each one to say likelihood of development, yes, no. A lot of things we looked at were infrastructure, like is there
Could they do it?
is there town water? Is there enough room
Yeah.
for septic capacity? Because that's going to be the limitation, as always, here in Hyde Park, is how much septic can they have for a larger building.
Right.
But the nice thing is I do agree that as our population ages in the area, we're going to need it. We will have young people coming in to buy the housing stock or rent, but we have to have a place where seniors like me can go. And you really can't get economies of scale with a limitation on scale of 65,000 square
Yeah.
feet. That includes parking. That's very hard to turn, a profit off. So at any rate,
And Hyde Park has been kind of proactive, so I'm as always, happy to see my town trying to address
I totally
these
concur with
problems.
you. I totally concur
Yeah.
with you. I wish that we could have done this a little bit earlier before interest rates rose
Wow.
and construction costs, but construction costs, that would have had to have been done 2 years ago before COVID. So at any rate, I guess I make a motion to authorize Cynthia to send this over to the town board.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And finally, making a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Town Board, for providing the resources to record and broadcast this show. I also want to thank our staff, Cynthia and Anne Marie, for all the work they did in preparing these resolutions tonight.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're doing